InnerQuest explores various pathways through which you can connect with the infinite wisdom of the universe and apply it to personal, professional, and spiritual growth. This program, featuring accomplished practitioners, educators, and authors, is provided by Infinity Foundation, an innovative center for holistic studies and research. We invite you to share this journey with us.
Hello, welcome to InnerQuest. My name is Jay Stone, your host for today, and our guest is Shirlee Hall. Welcome, Shirlee.
Welcome. Thank you.
Shirlee focuses on healing, embracing self-knowledge and knowledge of the divine realities. Shirlee's 5 books, classes, and workshops emphasize the importance of direct experience with the spirit within. Now, why don't you tell the audience how your interest in spirituality began?
Well, I'm one of these people that was born that way, meaning as a child, a very small child, I remember playing with toys, on the floor, and I would feel what they call the crown chakra, all the tingling, and it was just a natural for me. And I happened to have parents who understood those things. Instead of shutting me up, and saying, you're not seeing something and so forth, they supported the fact that I spoke in other languages and saw angels and everything else. So it's a natural...
What age are we talking about?
I'm from a little kid playing with dolls on the floor. It's been my entire life.
So you were able to speak a different language when you were a young child?
Yeah, but it was when I was sleeping. And my dad would go in the room and he recognized I was speaking Aramaic. Things like that, yeah.
Yeah. Now, did you grow up with any particular religion?
My parents attended a Lutheran church, a Missouri Lutheran church. And I went, through the catechism and everything else.
And were you experiencing your spirituality from within during those times?
Yes, but I didn't, this may sound strange, I did not really tell them what I was experiencing. Just like many people assume that everybody is experiencing what their personal experience is. You just think that's part of life. And it wasn't until later I began to open up and mention some of these things,
Yeah. All right. Well, and you've been putting yourself out there. You're author of 5 books, correct?
The 5th one is going to the publisher next week.
Let's talk a little bit about your books so our audience could understand your ability. Now, this is Trapped, Visitor from Heaven. Is this a novel?
It's my first, I guess you would say the first novel, but it's based on my life. So my family and friends are going to be shocked because I prefer not to speak about personal things, but yet we all have a story to tell, and I decided, hey, it's time to tell it. And it's ongoing, all these experiences, and I tie it in with teaching, tie it in with teaching not only of Jesus, but Krishna and Buddha, all the teachers. I bring it all together.
And so why the title Trapped, Visitor from Heaven?
Because I feel that we are trapped, meaning particularly souls who understand why we're in a physical form, and because we don't have the freedom that we had, that we remember. See, I remember what it's like not to be in the body. I remember past life experiences. I remember. And so here, I'm in this form, you're in your form, so it's a form of being trapped.
So when you remember what it's like not to be in a body, aren't you experiencing it again? So if you're having an out-of-body experience or a deeply and profound spiritual experience, isn't that like the present moment?
Oh, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. But the thing is, when you have pure awareness, that's different. There's so many different levels and degrees of firsthand experience. And when you experience that pure awareness, you can't find words for the sublime.
Bliss.
Yeah, that word is thrown.
Blissed out.
You're blissed out, yeah. So you're usually silent. But you can talk about out of body, or you can talk about remote viewing and things like that. That's easier. But to express that intimacy, I call it falling in love. I feel like I'm in love, with the divine. And only someone else who has that same experience gets, you get it without expressing it.
Well, let's try, let's expose our audience to another one of your books. This one is called B, Embracing the Mystery. I love the title. And you said this was your favorite book. Why is this one your favorite book?
Because that's the first time that I really opened up and shared some of my own experiences. And it's really a love affair. It's about the love affair that the soul has, an ongoing one ever since they've entered matter. And so I cover, other civilizations, ancient civilizations to now. I cover a lot is said about healing. I have a strong background in healing. This book I wrote for myself. This is the last one that I wrote.
The Three Persuasions, A Tale for Inquisitive Souls.
Yeah. That, you'll probably smile when I tell you this. Can you imagine sitting at your desk looking out the window, okay? You're sitting there writing, paying bills. Then all of a sudden, you hear a noise behind you. This is what happened to me. I heard this animal noise. I thought, well, that doesn't sound like my cat. Doesn't sound like my dog. Who is in the house? And I turned around, and there was this unicorn. And so that happened some years back. And I've always wanted to, to share that. And the unicorn in this book is the wise one, and the princess uses the unicorn as her mentor, asking very deep questions. And I needed to express it myself, to put it on a paper for somebody who would like to understand the levels of consciousness and going beyond the Christ consciousness to that absolute pure awareness, what it feels like. So anything that I write, I've experienced. So.
And can you tell our audience what the three persuasions are?
Can I tell you? It's the different levels of consciousness. The Christ and it would go from the Christ and the cosmic and then to that pure awareness. I'm not talking about everyday consciousness. It's all very mystical. So they just would have to read it.
Okay. And then
study it.
And then the last book that I'm holding is My Own Tree, Healing Experience.
I wrote that as a result of a musician friend who asked me to write it. He was putting a CD together with his music, and he said, "Would you please do this for me?" And so it it has to do with the various rays and the colors and affirmations. It's a nice workbook for people, whether it's a child. I mean, you can be any age and use that to help with the chakras, you know, and the rays of the sun.
Well, and so is this your healing experience? Or is this anybody who needs to come into balance and better health?
I've had all these experiences that sound strange, but I have since a child. And so, yes, but it's for anybody to use. I have some friends who use it all the time, you know, to help themselves heal different parts of their body and so forth. There's another book that I wrote years ago that I didn't bring because I'm going to reissue it. It's called Circle of Light. And that entire book was written in bits and pieces, you know, where you're inspired. And then I would put it in a drawer under the bed over a period of time. And then I had somebody say to me, you know, you should gather all your papers and put it in a book. And that's called A Circle of Light. And there's quite a story connected to that.
Now, do you still speak, I just dawned on me, but do you still speak the language like Aramaic in your sleep or other languages in your sleep?
I started, before I walked in this room, I was starting to tell my friend who came with me today something that was special to me, and I started speaking. And I usually know what I'm saying, even though it's another language. And it's not just Aramaic. I've had, like one time, there's many times, it happens frequently, a group of friends were over. They happened to be all women. And all of a sudden I said to them, let's stand in a circle. It was a social, you know, thing. And I said, well, let's stand in a circle. And I stood in the middle. And it was all impromptu, you know, it wasn't planned in any way.
Like channeling.
Yeah, and I stood up and I looked in the eye, the first one, and I went like this, and I started speaking in this other language. And I went to each one and looked in their eyes and said this. And what I was saying was, I knew it. No one told me the English, but I knew what I was saying. I was saying, we meet again in the light. It was wonderful. And I knew what I was saying was Egyptian. And a lot of the workshops that I offer are Egyptian, or the emerald tablets and the violet ray, and like this Friday I'm doing the platinum ray. All these different rays which go more deeply than this book here. So.
And well, you're going to be teaching at Infinity, right?
I did last May.
Okay. What was that course?
It wasn't a course. It was an afternoon on the violet flame. I call them sacred breath workshops.
Okay.
Because people are healed on different levels, and it's wonderful. It's really, it's beyond words. And there's physical healings, and then there's deeper. The main thing is to heal within, you know, heal in the subconscious.
Is there anything you could teach me or audience right now about the sacred breath?
They have to come. They have to come. People who, because it's, what I did, I mean, this probably sounds outlandish, but what I did years ago was I asked in prayer if I would be given a tool to help other people experience what I experience. Because that's the whole idea, is for each of us to wake up to the beauty of who we are. And so, now this is you know who Babaji is? The great immortal Hindu, goes way back. Yogananda and all them are of that lineage. He appeared to me in full Technicolor, and he gave me the idea, and I call them Shinras. This was in the 80s and 90s. I was back then teaching and traveling. I was out there in the public, and then I left it all for like 10 years to be a caregiver for my mother and other things that I had to take care of. And so now I'm just getting back into the work, so to speak. But
Your mother must have been quite old.
She died in 97.
Yeah.
That was a cute story. I mean, she was as healthy and alert as a field mouse. And one day she asked me, how much money do I have left? And I said, you don't have very much. And she says, well, it's time to go. And she actually died very shortly afterwards, and they didn't know what to put on the death certificate. You know? Yeah. She said, you know, no money, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, yeah, she had just turned 97.
Oh, so she was alert.
Yeah, and she was a healer also. And my father taught the Kabbalah. We're not Jewish, but we lean towards the tree of life. We really see it's a beautiful system to help someone grow, you know, spiritually and get their act together. So.
Now, were you ever trained? Do you have a degree? Now, did you ever do any work besides, you know, the spiritual, the light working, the light work?
Yeah, ordinary stuff like real estate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I worked as an activity director in a retirement home. You know, we're in secretaries, the normal stuff.
Yeah.
But I had, back in the 80s and 60s, a large organization called Circle of Light. And it was mainly made up of, in the Chicago area, mainly made up of Edgar Cayce people. And then when I left and then came back, meaning left the whole public speaking, and then I returned, I still do have a group called Circle of Light, but we don't advertise. If someone mentions it to a friend, you know, they feel, oh, you'll really resonate to this, I'll say, fine, join us, you know, try us out. So I do that in the Sacred Breath workshops once a month, each of those, locally. So,
All right. Now, you also offer individual consultations?
I have in the past. People are asking me now again to do that. At the moment, I don't have an office, but we could do it by Skype or telephone. As I said, I'm just moving back into all of this.
Yeah.
And
Now, do you consider yourself a minister?
I have a card.
Yeah.
But like so many, we've been ministering,
Yeah.
you know, forever and ever and ever.
So describe your ministry.
That's a good one. My intention is to help people have first-hand experience of the divine.
And how do you do that?
Well, usually what happens when they come to the workshops and they read my books, different things happen to them. I'm not exaggerating. They begin to wake up. I see this. People will come to a class and they'll say, well, I've never seen light. I've never, you know, had an experience out of body or anything. And they'll start opening up. Because I keep trying to instill this confidence in them that, hey, you know, if I could do it, you know, with all the ordinary crazy things and crazy things that have happened in my life, anybody can, you know. And we all have that light, that spirit within, and it's awesome.
And so, can you just summon that light?
In my case, yes.
But
it tells us in Scripture, all Scriptures tell us that. Ye are light. But most people don't believe it. But I was born with this crazy sight, meaning, you know, we have our physical senses, which is obvious, But we also have spiritual senses. That means that when I close my eyes, I can see you sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And so everyone has it. I have the proof. It'd be wonderful if everyone had proof, you know. But there's some quote too. I'm not good at quoting scripture, but there is something in scripture that says, "Those who have not seen and believe, greater are they," or something like that. But I do see. And funny things happen, like how you're sitting there. I was at someone's house and there was a big mirror behind them, a wall mirror. I could see her double. I call it the double, the light body. It looks just like you, sitting next to her double. And then in the mirror, I saw the back of her physical body, and I saw her light body in the mirror.
Yes.
And proof all the time that we're so much more than this flesh.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that the eternal part of us.
So what is the benefit of seeing someone's light body?
The benefit?
Yeah.
If I can help them understand that they're more than what they see in the mirror, and, you know, stop blaming themselves, start loving yourself, and believing in who you really are, then it's worth it. Mm-hmm. You know, it's worth it. And the more of us feel that way, maybe eventually humanity will grow up and there won't be any wars.
That would be nice.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Now, would you consider the light as a synonymous with God?
Yes, it's created by God.
Mm-hmm. But our physical bodies are created by God.
Yeah, but that's density.
Yeah.
Light is more subtle.
Yeah.
And I can look at a plant. Well, they proved that a long time ago. It was in the 80s. There was a book called The Plants. It had to do with plants, where they did all this scientific testing, and you could cut off a part of a plant, but with this, what's the name of that, Kirlian photography?
Mm-hmm.
They would take a photo, and that plant would still have the light body part of it that the physical, you know, had been removed. Mm-hmm. So our light bodies are perfect. They're not, you know, destroyed in any way. They're perfect.
So, if we get in touch with our light body, can it heal ourselves? Can it break bad habits like drinking too much or overeating? Can it help with relationships?
Yeah, I call that calling on your higher self. And that also ties in with, I'm sure you know, cleaning out the subconscious. Mm-hmm. All the distractions and obstructions and everything. A good example, so often I'm shown in a dream what would be a good subject to, you know, for a workshop or so forth. And in the dream I took a client and we went down basement stairs. So we were going to the subconscious of that client. So we're going down the stairs. Oh, it was horrible. There were leaves and garbage and awful stuff in the basement. It was an old-fashioned basement, and the big tubs, wash tubs or whatever you call them, they were all stuffed up. Everything was stuffed up. And so I said, hey, you got to get a broom, a shovel, plastic bags. This is in the dream. You have a lot of work to do, things to clean up. But what intrigued me, and this answers your question, what intrigued me, he starts working, sweeping and everything. And I noticed this shadowy figure right behind him working with him. Mm-hmm. And I stood there and I thought, this is amazing. It was symbolism of his subconscious. That if you cooperate, and the Hunas talk about that, you cooperate with your subconscious, you work together, and you call on your higher self, then you work as a team, and you can do what you just said. You can clean out all the garbage, so to speak.
Well, if we can do it, why aren't more people doing it?
Because they're lazy.
Uh-huh.
It takes effort. It takes persistence.
Well, I also think that's our primary purpose of being here on Earth, is to get in touch with our true self, our real self, and to share that with others.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got it.
Do you have any other unusual healing stories?
Oh. My whole life.
Yeah.
And I never know when something weird is going to, something's going to show up. It just shows up. Exorcisms, there have been exorcisms. I didn't even know what that was.
Yeah, can you describe one of your exorcisms?
Well, the first time I was exposed to it, I was still this quiet housewife who didn't tell her husband or anybody anything. And a neighbor called me over to he was a widower, over to their home. And he says, all he said was, my daughter in junior high, and I didn't know her, she's not acting right. She doesn't, she used to be a top student, she no longer is. Everything's different about her. Could you at least talk to her? And so his daughter was in junior high. I had a daughter in high school at that time, and a son. Well, anyway, so I went over there. And I thought, okay, she doesn't have a mother, maybe I can help. So everything was going along, just normal. And then she started talking about a Ouija board. And I don't know, a little antenna went up. And then I knew something wasn't right. And she said how she and her aunt would play with this Ouija board. So out of the blue, as I said, I didn't know her, and I wasn't a typical, or how should I say it? I wasn't the type who goes around and quotes scripture. And all of a sudden I started talking about Jesus. And it just came out of me. And when I did that, I got uncomfortably hot. And I became aware that there was something else going on in this room, and I didn't like it. I knew it didn't want me talking to her about Jesus.
Who was it that you didn't want you to talk to?
Oh, wait a minute. So, all of a sudden, wait a minute,
we only got like a minute.
Okay.
We got less than a minute.
I stood up, and I said a name of God. And as soon as I said it, this it left her, and she said to me, it left. And I said, who left? And she had the name for it. Somebody had possessed her from the other side.
Wow, that's a great story. We got to end there. I'm sorry. For more information about Shirlee Hall, the Infinity Foundation, the Inner Quest Talk Show, stay tuned to the credits at the end. Until next time, wish you good health, good fortune, and good spirits. Shirley, it's a pleasure to meet you.
You too.
For more information about this show, our guests, Infinity Foundation, or any of our other programs, please visit our website, infinityfoundation.org, or call us at 847-831-8828.